Now, on big tech, you're not leaving anything to chance. An e-commissioner, legislation being formulated, and now you've got a very wide-ranging inquiry.
We are taking this issue very seriously. As you rightly say, earlier this year we passed through the Parliament the new Online Safety Act, which gives our existing e-safety commissioner even tougher powers. For example, there's now a new set of rules to deal with serious cyberbullying of Australian adults. And we also, over the weekend, announced, the Prime Minister and the Attorney General announced new measures to deal with the issue of online defamation. We're essentially saying to the platforms, you must provide a complaint scheme which gives somebody who feels they've been defamed the capacity to engage with the person who they suspect of defaming them. And if the platforms don't do that, then they can be liable in defamation themselves. So it's about giving them the right incentives so that they can't stand by and allow anonymous trolls to engage in the most hateful and harmful language. Chris, if you say something critical of another Australian on your program, you can be sued in defamation if you say something that is seriously damaging somebody's reputation. Why should somebody who says something online be any different? So that's a key principle. And as you rightly say, today, the Prime Minister has announced that there'll be a select committee, a parliamentary committee chaired by Lucy Wicks, the member for Robertson. She's a mum, she's a former teacher, she's a former Telstra executive, so she knows these issues very well. And this will be a chance to hear from parents and families around Australia about issues of concern to them in regards to online safety and indeed to identify, look at the things that we've already done, see if more needs to be done, and look at issues like the algorithms. I mean, do the algorithms feed news to people, including particularly children and teenagers, which keep them going down an ever more harmful rabbit hole? So more and more news about dieting to a teenage girl with anorexia, for example.
Can this inquiry force some of the owners or managers of the big tech giants to come to those hearings? Because in the same way as we saw in Congress, it was a very informative session and a series of sessions that we could benefit from. Will they be compelled to give evidence?
Well, look, that'll be a matter for the chair of the committee and the other committee members. We intend it to be a cross-party committee because this is beyond politics. This is something of concern to all Australians, and they will look very carefully at their powers. I mean, the Parliament does have wide powers, but I'm confident that we will see the tech companies appearing without needing to be compelled. I think they'll see that as being in their interests, and I think they'll understand there's a serious community expectation here. This is a chance for them to explain to the Australian people what they do to keep Australians safe. They need to be held to account. They need to tell us what they do so we can make a judgment, if it's not good enough, that more is required.
You obviously understand that what you're doing is what America often fails to do, because they are some of the biggest companies in the world and within the United States. This is world-leading legislation. This will change the complexion of social media on the planet forever.
Look, the Morrison government has been ready to take on the big tech giants. We did it earlier this year with our News Media Bargaining Code.
Yep.
Lots of people said that wouldn't succeed, but the Prime Minister and the Treasurer, might I say, allocated a lot of their own time and commitment to that. I was privileged to be closely involved with that as well. And in the end, we got an outcome which has seen multiple commercial deals now done between Google and Facebook on the one hand and commercial media business on the other. That is employing additional journalists. That is supporting public interest journalism, exactly what we wanted to do. And so we have been ready to use the force of law to take on the big tech giants. And we say, if you want to do business in Australia, and of course, we welcome businesses like Facebook and Google, Twitter and others. They're substantial businesses, they're employers, they generate economic activity, but you must comply with the law in Australia and you must satisfy us that you're doing everything possible to keep your users safe. Safety is not negotiable.
I've been watching closely on another subject, the Environment and Communication legislative hearings in the Senate with the boss at the ABC. Will you be recommending to the Treasurer before the next budget that they receive the same and maybe more allocation in funding for next year or less?
Look, we'll make those judgments at the appropriate time through the budgetary process. The ABC is funded under what's called a triennium arrangement, so their funding is committed for 3 years. The next triennium commences 1 July 2022. So we'll make and announce that decision in advance of the commencement of the next triennium. I make the point, the ABC is very well funded, $1,070 million this year. There is no other media organisation in the country that has the scale and the certainty of the funding that the ABC has.
And, Minister, they're just about to get another windfall with their signing of an agreement in 2 weeks' time for news content from Google and also Facebook.
And they have made a commitment that all of the proceeds of that will be used to provide additional journalism in regional and remote Australia.
Right.
And certainly that is to be welcomed.
Paul Fletcher, thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thanks, Chris.